Hi, I'm Brianna.
And I'm Akira.
And you're watching
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So in what seemed to be like a fight that almost separated the country, Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev, they continue to go back and forth, or maybe I should say Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev, and Kathy Duva continue to go back and forth, beefing on the rematch clause and how the first fight turned out. It all started with, of course, Andre Ward beating Kovalev in what was perceived as a controversial decision when Andre Ward beat Sergey Kovalev on all judges' scorecards by 1 point. After Andre Ward beat Sergey Kovalev, of course, everyone was talking about the rematch, and we already know how big the rematch could possibly be just because there was controversy and drama from the first fight. Now, with that being said, after Andre Ward took all of Kovalev's belts, then they started talking about the rematch. And right out of the gate, Andre Ward, he says, if I have to fight Kovalev again, I have to be well compensated. So it goes from Andre Ward saying that to then later on he says, you know what, I may just retire. You know, I'm okay to walk away from the sport right now if I don't get the type of compensation I believe I deserve going up against Kovalev a second time. Now, once Andre Ward said that, this is when Kathy Duva jumped back in, and Kathy Duva, she said, well, yeah, I understand, Andre Ward. I would rather retire than fight Kovalev again too if I had to fight Kovalev. So then Andre Ward, he came back, said some more stuff, and now it brings us to present day where Sergey Kovalev, he finally reacts to the fact that Andre Ward is thinking about retiring. And let me go ahead and read to you guys exactly what Sergey Kovalev had to say about Andre Ward's possible decision of retiring. Quote, of course he realizes that we have to fight again. And so he starts saying that he can just leave boxing. Well, if he leaves, then everybody will realize that he is a coward. I can show you the videos on my Instagram account. He was shocked that he was awarded the victory. You can clearly see the man was walking around like he lost. And then when the officials made the announcement, his entire demeanor changed. End quote. Now, and I want to respond to everything Sergey Kovalev just said right there, but the first thing I want to respond to is him basically saying Andre Ward will be looked at as a coward if he were to retire. Now, I think all of us could agree that if Andre Ward were to retire after a fight that close, that would not be a good look for Andre Ward. No doubt about it. I mean, these type of fights, especially in your prime, you normally don't see too many fighters walk away from the rematch. Not in their prime. Especially in a very close competitive matchup where you took someone's title and there's a rematch clause involved. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys what this basically does for Kovalev. Just the fact that Andre Ward said this, I believe Ward made a mistake by even saying this from a psychological standpoint. Because what this does is it emboldens Sergey Kovalev, and it gives Sergey Kovalev the missing confidence that he probably had going into these negotiations for a possible rematch. I mean, when you look at the fact that, once again, Andre Ward, he comes back from a knockdown. He's losing the first half of the fight, and then he basically dominates the second half of the fight, and he finishes stronger than the naturally bigger guy, Sergey Kovalev. You know, I always ask everyone this same question, and they always answer the question the exact same way. I always ask boxing fans when we talk about this Kovalev versus Ward situation, I say, if Andre Ward let's reverse everything. And let's say it was Andre Ward that knocked down KOVALEV in the second round. It was Andre Ward that staggered KOVALEV with a jab in the first round and completely dominated KOVALEV in the first half of the fight. Do you think Andre Ward would have ever allowed KOVALEV back into the fight after dominating him like that in the first half? And every single person I asked that question to, they all say no. They do not believe that KOVALEV would have been able to get back into the fight in the second half. So my point is, Andre Ward, he was able to do something that even fans that believe KOVALEV won the fight don't believe KOVALEV would have been able to do. With that all being said, this forced KOVALEV to respect Andre Ward on a whole new level. The fact that Andre Ward was able to rally back and win the fight with his willpower. But see, when Andre Ward says things like, I might just retire instead of facing KOVALEV again, when he says stuff like that, once again, it gives Sergey Kovalev the missing confidence that he was looking for going into this rematch. We know that some of the greats like Floyd Mayweather, whenever he had a close decision, he came back right away and gave his opponent a rematch, like Castillo, Marcos Maidana. But then we know that there are a lot of other fighters that turned down a rematch in situations similar to this one. I go all the way back to Julio Cesar Chavez, when Julio Cesar Chavez, he clearly lost to Pernell Whitaker, and they ruled the fight a draw, even though it was one judge that actually had Pernell Whitaker winning the fight, and the other two judges had it a draw, which made it a majority draw. Then you have other fights like Lennox Lewis against Vitaly Klitschko, where Lennox Lewis, he decided to retire as opposed to facing Vitaly Klitschko in a rematch. Now, Lennox Lewis' situation may be slightly different because he was closer towards the end of his career, but, you know, clearly fighters like Oscar De La Hoya, when he had close decisions against Pernell Whitaker and especially against Ike Corte, Oscar De La Hoya, he walked away from a rematch. I remember Larry Merchant asking him, you know, will you give him a rematch? And Oscar De La Hoya made up his mind right then and there in the ring. He said, no, there's other fights that I could take instead of giving Corte a rematch. That was an extremely competitive fight, very difficult fight for Oscar De La Hoya. He walked away from the rematch. Okay, now I can make a lot more examples. There are, like I said, a lot of fighters out there. Some, they took the challenge and they took the rematch and they prevailed. Like, once again, like Floyd Mayweather did. Others, they walked away from it. But with Andre Ward's situation, this is different because not only is he talking about walking away from the Kovalev rematch, but he's talking about walking away from boxing. And it doesn't make sense to me because Andre Ward, he just came off of a long layoff. He had basically resurrected his career. He moves up in weight, and this is a new chapter in the story of Andre Ward, right? When it comes to his career. So it's too early. It's far too premature for him to be talking about retiring, because this is his opportunity to really cement his legacy and become, you know, a long reigning pound for pound king for quite some time, like Floyd Mayweather did, of course. But we all know when it comes to the reality of the situation, Sergey Kovalev will not be an easy opponent to beat in a rematch. And clearly Andre Ward understands that, and vice versa as well. Now, something else I wanted to talk about, I wanted to respond to when Sergey Kovalev, he said that you could look at Andre Ward's reaction and how surprised he was when he won the fight. But that's not really news. That's not really a surprise that Andre Ward would react in a surprise fashion, because of the fact that the fight, not only was the fight extremely close, But considering the fact that Andre Ward had to come back from a deficit of being knocked down, being staggered, right? Losing the first half of the fight, he's moving up in weight, fighting for this guy's title in a razor thin type of fight. Of course, you're not going to know if you won the fight for sure. I mean, you could even look at Sergey Kovalev when it comes to his body language at the end of the fight. Sergey Kovalev wasn't walking around like he thought he won the fight. In fact, in the second half of the fight, Sergey Kovalev's body language looked like a guy that was losing the fight. Okay? At least a guy that knew he was in a very, very close competitive fight, to say the least. So, I mean, if we're talking about body language, both fighters reacted the same way. Neither one of those fighters could say, oh, I know the judges gave me this fight for sure. No, it was a very, very close competitive fight. When you're in there fighting, your job is not to judge the fight, right? I mean, now clearly if you just beating the shit out of your opponent in this, a one-sided fight, then clearly you know that you win in the majority of rounds. But when it's a seesaw battle, is going back and forth, yeah, you're not there to judge the fight. You're there to fight. And then later on, maybe the next day, you can go back home, sit down and watch the fight. Then you could actually score the fight to see how close it was, to see how good you did. So, with that all being said, I hope the rematch takes place. This rematch would be great for the sport of boxing. We already have some terrific fights for 2017, and this would just be one of the biggest fights of 2017, on top of all the other fights we obviously have. So that's pretty much all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.